village that supported me, but I don't think every child has that village, that community to help them navigate all of those challenges. And I think because their parents don't have the skills to help them navigate, we just get further and further left behind.
Yeah, Gen Z, they're not looking to go to school, go to college, work 50 years and retire and then struggle. They looking to change the narrative. A lot of them have opted out of the college route. They learned entrepreneurship. They learned business classes. They learned how to grow your own brand.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I had a village that supported me. had a village that supported me, but I don't think every child has that village, that community to help them navigate all of those challenges. And I think because their parents don't have the skills to help them navigate, we just get further and further left behind.
Yeah. Gen Z, they're not looking to go to school, go to college, work 50 years and retire and then struggle. They looking to change the narrative. A lot of them have opted out of the college route. They learned entrepreneurship. They learned business classes. They learned how to grow your own brand.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Growth Motivator Live with your hosts, me, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. Today, we are joined by Temeka Lewis, who was formerly a single mother with a young African-American boy. Hi, Temeka.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. How are you today?
I am wonderful. You know, I'm in the preferment stage of my life, so that's a wonderful place to be.
For those of you who don't know, it's glory to God. Okay. I learned a few sign language today.
All right. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about homeschooling, but with a little twist. Homeschooling in the African American community. And so, Temeka, I know that you made a decision to homeschool your son. So tell us about that journey from beginning to the middle so that our listening and viewing audience can just walk through that journey with you.
Well, I think it really started when I found out I was actually having a child. One of my biggest concerns, because I didn't live in one of the, affluent areas in the city of Chicago, was what's my child education going to look like? I know my mother bent a few rules in order to get me an education that she felt was better than what was offered locally. So we started out in regular school, daycare. When he turned 3, the church I was attending at the time had a private school. So he started there for K3, K4. The school closed on me. So at that time, no more private schools in the area. We were left with public school options. So we started in a charter school for kindergarten. And he had
kindergarten. They had charter school back then?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Won't say the name of it, but it's a large network here in Chicago, and they've got 3 of them. So we went to charter school. Kindergarten, he had lots of problems. And so as I was talking to a lot of his teachers and always getting called by administrators, the thing that was said to me over and over is like, well, he finished his work. But when he finishes his work, he starts talking, he's playing around, he's falling out of his chair, he's disrupting others. He was bored. And so with the No Child Left Behind initiative, they have lots of programs for those who struggle, but nothing for those who are advanced or gifted in the public schools in the inner city.
Gifted.
Because
I think oftentimes our children get labeled as troublemakers, but he was bored.
He was bored. He would always finish his work, always getting straight A's. Answers would be right. In fact, they would get a little irritated because they felt like he wasn't listening during the lesson, but he always had good answers. So, first grade, he started the year in a regular charter school, and the same problems persisted. So I started to research. I went online, what are the homeschooling options? At the time, I was blessed to be able to work from home. So I decided I was going to split my day in half. I started online first with my employer looking for a different role because the role I was in would not have allowed me to talk to him, homeschool him, be his coach during the day. I found I'll call it a hybrid school. And so they had 1 day of brick and mortar for socialization. The other 4 days, the parents were the quote unquote learning coach. They sent you all the books, they sent you the laptop, the curriculum, and all you really had to do was teach your child. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, that was our plan. We implemented a no homework plan because if you show me that you have grasped the concept, I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of busy work or homework at the end of the day because his end of the day was my end of the day, and I was still working. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade went great. 4th grade, he got a little lonely, right? He started to go, we were still a bit active in our church and everybody else was talking about field trips and things that they were doing at school. So he asked, Mom, can I go back to regular school? We found another charter school in our neighborhood. We did 4th grade in school, 5th grade in school. Sixth grade, he discovered girls.
Mm.
Yeah. And my really smart, intelligent son changed to, I want to be the cool guy, right? Grade slipped. So I used to say, hey, if you don't do this, I'm going to bring you back to the kitchen table and we're going to go back to homeschool. And sixth grade, he made it halfway. January, when everybody else went back to school, he was back at the kitchen table in that same hybrid school program. But the advantages it had was that if he grasped a concept, there were no limits in this hybrid school. You could move on to the next subject. So while everyone else was finishing up their sixth grade curriculum, I was in eighth grade math with my son.
Mm.
Yeah, he kind of like me. I like math and science. So we were doing eighth grade math. And so a lot of the things that we were doing, because again, they will send you whatever books you tell them to send you. So a lot of the things that we were doing were kind of ahead of his time. So then we catch up. Here we go to high school. Mom, I don't want to do homeschool anymore. 2020 was the year my son graduated. Everyone else who was troubled about a virtual graduation, it was nothing to him because he had been virtual and homeschooled for so long. So first year of his freshman year was virtual because of the pandemic. So he was still on the computer, talking to teachers, but because of all the experience he had in the past, it was so easy to him. Like everybody was complaining about Google Sheets and Google Classrooms and Zooms, and my son was still acing all his classes his freshman year at school. So then we relocated. Sophomore year, he decided he wanted to go back to brick and mortar. His sophomore, junior, he is now a graduating senior. He has finished out his career almost in traditional, but it's kind of been a hybrid role for him. And I can always tell when he is struggling with the subject because he'll come and he'll ask me for some help. But for the most part, homeschool has lots of advantages. Again, there's no limitations to what you can teach your child. You can teach to that child's level and intellect, and you are not bound by any sort of curriculum. So,
Oh, you know
yes.
what? So I wonder how many other boys, African American boys, can benefit from being homeschooled if the resources are made available to them.
I think every parent knows their child's strengths and weaknesses too, right? And so while I say he likes math and science, he doesn't like literature and things like that. So those types of classes, we scale out of his curriculum if we can. And like when the school that he went to when we moved to the south suburbs, they got a lot of trades programs. And so in the inner city, a lot of the vocational schools in the inner city, they changed them to career academies. And I feel like when they got rid of those vocations, because again, everybody has different strengths and weaknesses, that it kind of put limits on a lot of our Black boys, Black little girls, who saw mama and grandmother as entrepreneurs, hairstylists, but there was nobody there to teach them those types of careers because they shifted, forced everybody to go to college. So
So, both of us have worked in higher education in the adjunct role. And I see a lot of the students struggle in that online space where essentially, as the learner, you're in the driver's seat with your process. It sounds like with homeschooling with your son, you were in the driver's seat, but he was driving along the journey with you and kind of regulated how fast or slow you move through the process.
absolutely. And he got to choose which routes we took, right? So if there was a class that they were suggesting, because they gave you a whole book to choose from, as long as it was at grade level, you couldn't take anything below. But as long as it was at grade level, you could make a selection. So if there was a certain class that he wasn't all excited about, we wouldn't add that to his choice, his options. So, and I think too, traditionally speaking, just coming from a Black culture, like a lot of the subjects that we learn in traditional schools may not necessarily give our children the experiences that they need or the knowledge that they need to be successful.
So, how did homeschooling your son change you as a parent?
Oh man, it made me stick to a schedule. Like I could get up, get him dressed, take him to school, and then go back home to work. But what I had to do when we decided to do homeschooling was wake my child up early in the morning at 5 o'clock. And I learned that the subjects he was most excited about, put those at the end of the day and do the ones that he wasn't so happy about earlier in the day. Then I was disciplined enough to do what I had to do in the middle of the day. Always had something for him to do while I was working. So we essentially schooled, work, schooled, and then I finished my day after he was done. So it gave me discipline. Like I was always, and I think a lot of us are, reliant on the teachers to do certain things because you're going to drop that child off and they're responsible for the education. So now there's planning for me, like the week before, what are we going to study next week? What are we going to study next year? You know, what's on? So it's taught me a little bit more discipline. And I also now I empathize with teachers. Like I know what they go through as far as planning. And I had one. I couldn't imagine having a whole classroom full of little ones. Older children, yeah, but little ones, right?
So when you think about that No Child Left Behind, um, was that a hindrance for children in terms of their ability to navigate college later on in life, or is it a good thing?
I really don't remember when the switch happened. And so I will tell you that I remember the elementary school I attended. Most people didn't like it because they said it wasn't inclusive. But each grade had 3 levels of students. You know, they had those that were at grade level, those who could do a little bit more were in certain classes, and those who needed the additional help had other classes. So they split them off by 3. At one point, everybody started to, and I won't say it's a bad thing, request inclusion, right? We don't want to make the other group of students feel bad, but at the same time, when you do that, you lose a whole slew of gifted students. So I think, I'm just going to say I do think it hurt. Maybe a smaller percentage of the population, but it hurt more people than it intended to hurt.
So I think about me as a parent of a special needs daughter from very early on in her academic experience. We had annual meetings. They were individual education programs where we mapped out these are the goals that she's going to achieve for this year. It was a collaborative effort. But I think today, you're not seeing that collaboration that's going on, which in turn is producing individuals that are graduating. They didn't really learn what they needed to learn to be productive citizens.
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary because as parents and grandparents, what does the future hold? And I wonder if homeschooling children, especially for those parents that are at home anyway, what impact that would have on the quality of their child's life, their life, and then the community at large. If that could be maybe a requirement. Okay, you're not working as a parent, you're going to homeschool your child.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the skill sets to support your student, your child in that certain area, we're going to support you. It's like it takes a village mindset.
You know what else bothers me too, though? And I think this, I don't know if this is just state of Illinois or if it's national, but by my son being a graduating senior, we were recently told that one of his requirements to graduate was that he had to fill out a FAFSA. And if you've already told the school that you're going to the military, or if you've already told the school that you're going into a trade school program, why then are they forcing you to fill out financial aid applications? I mean, I know it's just an application, but I feel like they push the same narrative, cookie cutter, on every single child without giving them the ability to explore other options. Like he was really bothered by, why I got to fill this out. I told him I was going. I'm like, it's a graduation requirement. So we'll do it. But at the same time, that child that doesn't have that village is going to fill out a financial aid program. They're going to end up in a college when that's really probably not the best option for them because there is no one to guide them and to understand what should be next for them in their lives. So
this is I just had this visual of this model. So we're both in healthcare. You know how we have the patient-centered healthcare strategy? I think there needs to be a student-centered approach. Every child, just like our fingerprint, is a different individual.
Yes.
And if they could find resources to customize support for that individual child, I think we would see less children dropping out of elementary school.
Elementary, yeah.
I'm like, high school, that was a thing when we were growing up, right?
Yes.
But dropping out of elementary school when our forefathers fought for us to go to school, many of them with a first and second grade education,
Yeah.
because it wasn't an option for them. And we have those options. And these kids oftentimes are making the decision that they're done.
Yeah.
And they're done because there's so many other barriers that they're dealing with. They got discipline problems, or maybe they don't have proper clothes to wear. Just all of these things that's preventing. I know it's happening in other cultures, but I can only speak to my experience. I think in our culture, it's causing us to really have a future that does not look so bright.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the initiatives that my church has on the table right now is teaching kindergartens, first and second graders how to read, because third grade is the first challenge year where if you don't pass your state exams, they can hold you back. Whoever thought about being held back into third grade? And so it starts really, really early. And when we say people are dropping out of elementary school, it's because they can't get past the third grade. And that's a problem in the inner city. It's a problem.
So I grew up in the inner city, and you'll be surprised that I'm going to disclose this. And I don't know if I talked about this in my book, Grow With Me, but when I was leaving third grade, my mother was told that I had to repeat third grade. I wound up switching schools because my parents had got a divorce, and at the new school, I was able to go to fourth grade. But I think about the limitations that are put on children, and some children never bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
So, third grade, I was going to be held back. Then it was time to take the ACT. I got a really low score. I was told I wasn't college material. But how did I become Dr. Lisa L. Campbell?
Right.
So I feel like that I had a village that supported me, but I don't think every child has that village, that community to help them navigate all of those challenges. And I think because their parents don't have the skills to help them navigate, we just get further and further left behind.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that was discussed, when we had the meeting, was that some of the parents were concerned, like, well, we want our children to have help, but I'm not able to do it. Like, we're talking about generations. Like I said, I grew up in the inner city, but the schools in my local neighborhood, my mother bent a few rules and she didn't allow me to go to those schools. So, but back then it wasn't illegal. Now you got people essentially lying, saying I'm homeless, or they have to use another family member's address. People are struggling just to get a good education because everybody in the inner city is not treated equal, right? And when you think about a whole nother conundrum, the way they fund schools in the state of Illinois is based off of property taxes. So if you live in a lower socioeconomic area, guess what? You're going to pay a whole lot of taxes and you're going to be really undereducated. So that's a podcast for a different day.
So I was doing some research on my favorite research engine about homeschooling. And I think one of the benefits of homeschooling is for safety purposes. Do you think that it was a double-edged sword, like your son was isolated from the world, but do you think that he's has that what Paul likes to call the street sense, if you will, to be able to navigate, outside?
So yes, only because school was only a few hours every day. He got his street sense on weekends. Family members, didn't no grass growing to my son's feet when he was coming up. I have a very large family. And he went lots of places. He was experienced to lots of different neighborhoods. So a lot of us I lived in the inner city until about 3 years ago. So we were still in the city. My mom's still in the city. Most of my family, I got a few people in the suburbs, but yeah, I think he can navigate. Now, he don't enjoy it. I'll tell you that. Because even certain family members, when we go visit, he like, well, what time we going home? He is not his mother. Like, I can mingle anywhere, right? But he don't enjoy it. And I don't know, he's a black male, right? So he's got a different sense of fear than I do. I mean, as his mother, I worry. But there's certain crowds, even family members, he don't like to be in. So He can navigate it, he just don't enjoy it.
So I kind of like that because I feel like one day he'll be a father. And so I think it's going to make him, he's going to have the best of both worlds in terms of navigating life and where he's going to have his family. And I grew up in the city of Chicago. And as soon as I became an adult, I was like, yeah, I am done with Chicago. And I think to some extent that has hindered me because I don't like going outside too much. I mean, I will go outside, but if you say, meet me up north, like one time you had me up north, we went to some event, right? And I was like, where we gonna park? You like, park on the street by the meter. I'm like, the meter? so so I feel like you need that good mix because I know for me, I'm hesitant to go a lot of places, honestly, because of fear. I can't be past 147th Street most days because I just feel more comfortable. So, what do you think? Or maybe I should ask. He's graduated from high school this year, 2024. What do you see? Where do you see him 5 years from now?
Hopefully, he says he's planning to join the electrician's apprenticeship. It's a 5-year program. So, and he's already excited. He met someone, so now he has a mentor, and they've already told him, we revised the program. We will take your application when you turn 18, which happens in February, and you can do all the paperwork, get it all out the way, pending graduation. So he has reminded me several times that he'll be 18 soon. And I think that really comes from seeing, like, I'm a healthcare professional, but I dibble and dabble in real estate a lot. So we did demoed, tore some walls up, played in the wires. He has seen that and he really enjoys it. So, like, one of the classes that he took at school, I thought it was like auto shop, but it was really auto technology. So he was under the hood, messing with wires and playing with computers. So he enjoys that. So hopefully he'll be finishing up his program. At least that's what he says.
Well, tell him back in the day, Uncle Paul was a union electrician. And first of all, I'm happy that he has the opportunity to get into that field because I know that when Paul was in it, he experienced, some racism as a part of the process, but he learned so many valuable skills that he's able to use today in his role as a project manager. And so one of the things I'm happy about, we know your son is extremely, extremely smart, right? And some people would say, well, why wouldn't he go to college? Everybody doesn't have to go to college. Yeah. And he could be the individual that starts off as an electrician, but then opens up an electrical company that then transforms into a brand or building something that he could sell. Yeah. So I think oftentimes we think, oh, you don't go to a 4-year university, so, you're not going to survive life. And that's not true.
Yeah, he's really excited. He's the youngest of his group of friends, is what I'll call it. So he's got one that maybe graduated 2 years ago that is working for ComEd. She went through a ComEd workforce development program. There's another friend who is 20 and will be 21 soon, but just patiently waiting to get their CDL. They've been a forklift driver for a lot. So a lot of, I'm going to say Gen Z, they're not looking to go to school, go to college, work 50 years and retire and then struggle. They looking to change the narrative. And so a lot of them have opted out of the college route. And the good thing about it is that in their high schools, which is what I went to college prep high school, they learned entrepreneurship. They learned business classes. They learned how to grow your own brand. So they're being taught because they're in a different environment outside of the inner city. And so I think that piece is what's missing too from a lot of our schools. Because again, we all pushing the 4-year university narrative.
Well, and you and I both know that there are a lot of individuals that are in school at a 4-year university that shouldn't be there. And I have to tell you, after teaching in that environment for 25 years, it's kind of hurtful because I feel like we're being set up to fail. We're being set up to accumulate 20, 30, 40, and 50 and $100,000 in debt and are going to be worse off in the end than when we started. Yeah. So I like this journey that he went down because I feel like you could take this model and help other parents implement it in their households, and we can change communities brick by brick by brick.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talk about it all the time, strategies to building wealth. I'm like, there are always exceptions to the game. I'm like, but when you think about, look up, talk to millionaires who weren't born millionaires, I said, they'll tell you it's our business ownership, real estate, insurance, and I can't remember the fourth one. But there's four of them that we talk about all the time. So he hears that, and he's like, well, what's the purpose of college? I'm like, college does serve its purpose for certain professionals, right? And it's not no knock against it because I'm educated, you're educated. I'm like, and we all have our own pathways, but riddled with debt, and I saw you.
Did you see my eyeballs roll down to the floor and back up to the sky?
Riddled with debt. And so people are just getting wiser sooner, not going into the debt trap. So.
And that's what I love about our kids. I'm just like a fly on the wall watching them fly and soar through life. And I think what's also different, and Paul and I talk about this with our daughter, they are taking risks and not looking back. If it don't work out, it's okay. I tried it. Whereas us, we're like, well, I'm a little riskier than most, right? Because I believe in me. But I think the mindset, I think about my parents and my grandparents, you work that one job, and then you're going to retire and travel. Yep. And you and I both know now is the time to travel. And we can walk around and we don't need a cane to assist us getting on the plane and all of that. But as we go from one generation to the next, that's what we want them to see.
Yeah.
My parents always said that we work hard so you can have a better life. So then Paul and I worked hard so our kids can have a better life. And we're seeing it manifest.
Yes.
But what I want, my wish, is that we could touch more people in our communities because I feel like we're going to be extinct. When you think about, when you watch the news, smash and grab, all these things that the young people are getting into, they clearly are intelligent. Because if you can devise a plan and execute the plan and be successful at executing the plan, you got some skills.
Yeah.
So I want to see programs put in place to help them, number one, shift their mindset, for them to realize that I do matter, that I can be successful, and I don't have to be a bad actor to be one. I could be a good actor.
Yeah, yeah.
So what is in store for you post baby, graduated from high school? I don't know how you're going to deal with it, being a mom all those years. Clearly, him being homeschooled established a bond between the two of you. But what's next for you?
Well, he is planning his own route, right? So the thing that he said is he don't want to be up here in the cold. We got family and cousins in the South. He loves the Southern hospitality. Like, I don't know, my son was born and raised in Chicago, but you can't tell. Like, any chance we get to go to Atlanta, Memphis, some parts of Arkansas, he ready. So he said when he graduate, he going to try to go to Atlanta where our cousins are that are his age. And he said, I'm going to buy me a house in Atlanta. So he going to leave me. So, but I don't know what my plan's going to look like. But he still got about 5 years to go. So, and he's not leaving the nest anytime soon. My bonus son also is now a permanent member of our home too. So 2 brothers, they having a good old time. My bonus son is techie. He's into cybersecurity. So he's in a 4-year university. So again, it has its privileges. It has its benefits. But I don't know what we're going to do when them 2 leave. We probably be headed south too because I could leave the cold as well.
Yeah, you know what? Paul and I talk about all the time. Our grandsons are in Arizona. I personally love the heat. But, we looked at houses. Talk about that debt. We looked at houses in Arizona probably 10 years ago. And that would have been the time to buy it because it was much cheaper. And the houses were cheaper. Our debt was like here. But now our debt is way over here, because of my entrepreneurial endeavors. But we definitely, I believe, will move somewhere where it's warm. Because these Chicago winters are brutal. That arthritis and all the other things that happen when you get on the other side of the equator is real.
Yeah. the housing market, they say it's cyclical, right? It fluctuates. This is the first time, though, in my lifetime, I think, that the housing and the interest rates been up at the same time. Usually the house pricing go up, you have the rates come down. So it's interesting to watch. But at some point, everything, what goes up
Must
come down.
Absolutely. So. And I'm just excited to see the Generation Z.
Yeah.
They are going to do some amazing things, and I'm here for it all.
Agree. Yeah, like I said, they changing the narrative. And we did, to some degree. My mom and grandparents, they didn't go to college. So they were like, you're the first person in the family to go to college, okay? But now my son's like, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm. And I love it. Yeah. I love it because you know what? I think for me, I honestly didn't want to go to college. Yeah. I thought I was going to own a McDonald's. But then I had a baby. And then diapers and milk got real. And so I'm like, you need to do something. But I started off at a trade school for medical assisting. And then realized, if you want to be in charge, you need a 4-year degree. Yeah. But today, these young folks can be in charge with no degree. They're innovative. They know how to use the technology. They just have so many skills that honestly you can't teach in a classroom.
Correct. It's becoming a world of skill sets, right? Forget the degrees. Who can do this for me? So, and that's what they're getting educated about, I'll say. Like Google has all these tech certs and everybody can give you a cert in something. So they building they tool belt with skill sets.
Yes, and I love it. I love it. Well, this has been another episode of the Growth Motivator Live. I want to thank my guest today, Temeka Bester, for coming to hang out in the Growth Motivator studios. And I will see you all real soon.